Yo, what's going on? We back. I told y'all. I didn't see this happening, but I did say that the Eagles were going to win this game, and here we are, man. What a time to be alive, man. You're welcome back, brother. How you feeling?
Man, words can't describe. Just still, and it's still processing it.
It's still loading, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, man. Listen, man, what a beatdown. That wasn't just a win. We went in there with a purpose and just absolutely dominated that team in front of everybody to see. Super Bowl 59 was not what people thought it was going to be. It did not go the way that a lot of the national pundits said it would. And we went out there and straight up belt to behind, man. Belt to behind all day long, man. Forget it. We're
it,
gonna say it was belt to ass, man. Like we got them up out of there and they did not they did not look like they belonged on the field there with us for most of the game, if we're being honest there. And I think it all started really with that defense. That is the story of the Super Bowl. Defense, defense, defense. Let's talk about Vic Fangio and the transformation that he put that defense through and what they did in this game to Mahomes. And there's a couple of stats that stuck out to me. Now, let's just start with Pat Mahomes. In that game, they lost 40 to 22, and the game was not that close. At halftime, he was 6 for 14 for 33 yards and two interceptions that led to 14 Eagles points, including the pick six by the birthday boy. Shout out to Cooper DeJean for getting that done. Hope you're enjoying your birthday along with Saquon Barkley. It was his birthday as well. So a lot of celebrating going on along with the Super Bowl win. And that gave Mahomes a 10.7 passer rating at halftime, fourth worst passer rating by a Super Bowl starter. Let's start there, man. What do you think about that?
that's crazy to me, considering how how good he is, man. That's just speaks volumes about our defense.
Yeah, exactly. And on top of that, at a certain point in that game, we had more first downs. I mean, we had more sacks than they had first downs in that game.
Hmm.
And it goes back to what we talked about in the prediction video in the trenches. That's where it starts, that's where it ends. People want to get into all this, hey, we don't really match up that well against you, but we have Belichick Brady. We don't match up that well at other spots, but we have Mahomes Reed. Again, you have to look at football for what it is. It's a very simple game when you come back down to it. It's a game that relies on the run to open up the pass. Conversely
Hmm.
to what people think nowadays, where they just think you're supposed to come down the court in basketball and just stop and pop a three, or you're supposed to just air it out every chance you get, running a spread offense or air raid offense. Who needs to run the ball? Running backs are unimportant.
Hmm.
If you didn't learn your lesson after this Super Bowl, I don't know when you'll figure that out. I mean, you just look at this team from the rip, they were not able to run the ball. I mean, Isaac Pacheco might have had three carries in the whole first half. I didn't even see him toting the rock that much. And when he did, he couldn't really get much started. Now he might have had more carries than that, but you get the point. They tried it early, it didn't work, and Andy Reid got away from that script, and it just went all downhill after that point. But you look at the trenches, they could not block us offensively. I mean, look, they tried to mix and match some pieces there. We talked about Caliendo and how he was going to be a liability. I mean, him along with other people were as well. 74 on the right side couldn't block Brandon Graham to save his life. There was one play where it didn't even we would without the brace on his left arm, we wouldn't have known Brandon Graham was hurt because he just blew by the tackle, got held on the play, and just overall was wreaking havoc. Josh Sweat was just having his way with boy that they moved out to was it Tooney? I forgot who they have.
Yeah,
And
I think it was. Yeah, I think it was Tooney.
yeah, I always get confused about whether he was a Patriot or not, but they moved him
Yeah.
out to left tackle and he looked like a guard out there today. Make no mistake about it, that was not going to fly. Josh Sweat was all over Mahomes, including that interception that he threw to Zack Baun, which was caused by Josh Sweat pushing the tackle back into Mahomes and not allowing him to turn fully into his throw. And we know what happened next. And then just in general, the commentators mentioned that he had happy feet, man. Like he did not trust his line and think he had enough time. What did you see in particular on the pick six to Cooper DeJean, and what stuck out to you about that play?
Um, I mean, he had pressure in his face, man. He just could not get a break. I mean, not just that play. I mean, listen, kudos to the birthday boy for getting his first pick six. Not only, his first pick six, but in the Super Bowl. How big is that, right?
Hmm.
And it's special, a special moment for him, man. And just it just looked like how often can you sit here and say Patrick Mahomes looked like he was seeing ghosts out there, man? Like he was just stepping up in the pocket and at just very uncharacteristic things he doesn't do. And he looked like he wasn't seeing 11 people in the field. He looked like he was seeing like 13 sometimes. Like he looked spooked, man. Like it's just crazy how well they played and like we predicted. Caliano, he was definitely a liability. That interior, that is the first place I took notice to where that pressure was coming from. Outerior too. I mean, how about Jalen Hunt though? Like he's looking like he's coming into his own too. But man, this defense, man, I am really excited for the future on what's to come. Not only just the fact we got this, Super Bowl victor, but man, I'll tell you, this defense is only going to get better.
Only going only going to get better, man. Six
Yeah,
sacks for 31 yards. The completion percentage was just so low in that first half. They really couldn't get anything moving. And I just really like the way that this defense, and we talked about it, they were 5-0 on turf, and now they're 6-0 on turf. They closed in on the short passing game so quick, and this is what we talked about. They're a horizontal passing attack. And when you're able to shut that down, which is not easy, with Xavier Worthy and Hollywood Brown and Pacheco, because they're good in short area, in short space. But DeJean, Quinyon Mitchell, that one hit on the tight end when he tried a little quick pass to the sideline, backed up against their own end zone. As soon as you took away the run game and showed that you were flying to the football and taking away the short passes, they didn't have much. They didn't have
no,
much at all.
no,
And I just really love the way that Vic Fangio was able to scheme this game up. And I was looking at a video from last year when we signed Fangio, and you were asking me, hey, I heard about him, but I wasn't sure. And you remember how enthusiastic I was about Vic Fangio
yeah,
because I've seen him play, and I've seen him coach, and I've seen some of the defenses that he's been able to field, the 49er defenses, including the one that went to the Super Bowl, or one of them, and lost to the Chiefs, as well as the Denver defenses that he really scripted up very, very well as well. So going into this game, he hadn't gotten a win against Mahomes, and one of the narratives was that, hey, he's a good coordinator, but when Mahomes is able to sit back and see what you're doing, eventually he's going to be able to pick you apart. And my thing was, Vic Fangio, he does a great job at disguising what he likes doing. And on top of that, you're not in Denver anymore. You don't have, not Bo Nix, but I don't know if it was Paxton Lynch at the time or whoever their quarterback was. They didn't have any offense. So you can be as great on defense as you want to. You run the risk of being on the field too long. And eventually
mhm,
he's going to get you. That's just how it goes. With the
yeah,
49ers, um, you have to give Mahomes his credit. Part of that is him finding some things in Fangio's defense. Part of that is Kyle Shanahan not knowing how to coach with a lead, from at least what I can ascertain at this point. Whether that stays the narrative, we don't know. But you put him in this situation with an offense that stays on time, runs the ball, eats clock, and allows you to not be on the field for an excessive amount of time. I mean, and then you have a bunch of dogs like you have now. They were able to get pressure without blitzing. And once you're able to rush four and drop seven, very, very tough to beat that. So, it was set up for success and we capitalized. So, very, very, very excellent job there. What do you think about um some of the things they were able to do in terms of stopping the run and especially the way that we saw Zack Baun playing? I mean, he all the players that got snubbed, he of all the players that got snubbed, his snub was one of the ones that annoyed me the most. And on the
Yeah.
biggest stage of his life, he put a big middle finger up to all the detractors and made a huge play that really, really put the pressure on the Chiefs. What do you think, man?
It's nothing short of impressive, man. I mean, there's just he just flies to the ball, man. Like he's just so fast. He's just coming from. I mean, that's good scouting on Howie's part, man. To go grab him up and look at the player he's turned into. Like it just shows you how much how far he's come. Like, he's always been a good free agent guy, but he's also gotten better at drafting and all that. But man, he's just such a phenomenal player, and they got to pay that man, man. He's due for a contract. Otherwise, he's going to free agency. But he is such a difference maker, and the way they're always just so good against the run. And that's just what's so impressive that when you take away the run, it's like they put you in a position to where it's like you just can't do anything. And they just look like once I saw how dominant that defense was getting to Mahomes and just how fast they were getting, like I just knew this game was over. Like there was a point where you were just like, and it was like I think it was the 17-0. It's just you kind of just knew like I don't know. Like it's crazy. It's just crazy to me. It's how well that defense really got after. I mean, I knew they were good, but man, last night I feel like it took it to a different level. Like, did you see this? Like, is my question.
I did not see it to this extent just because Pat Mahomes, they were forced errors. I just did not see him making as many as he made,
Yeah,
especially that first one to the Gene thrown across his body. He just, I don't know if it was because we were wearing green and it blended in with the grass, but he just didn't see him, man. He lost him. He lost him. And he's scrambling out to the right, and he doesn't have somebody like right on his heels, so he has time to somewhat scan the field as he decides if he's going to throw it away, tuck it and run, or whether he's going to throw the ball downfield. You can't make that. You throw it away there. You don't try to make
yeah,
that play. So, but Fangio, it's to your point, putting those thoughts of doubt in his head, and then you go ahead and you try to press and you do too much. So, that's I'm just very impressed with this defense, and I thought that they did not get enough credit. They're the number one defense in the league, along with the number one or number two offense in the league. Why were the Eagles underdogs going into this game?
right. Yeah, and you know what else really got me? Like, if you listen to like some of like ESPN, because I listen to like First Take a little bit.
Yeah, yeah,
And like I felt like they were ripping Mahomes a little bit too much. I understand he didn't have a good game. Probably one of his worst games I think he ever had, honestly.
yeah, yeah.
But I don't think you're giving enough credit to the Eagles defense and how well they made him look that way. Because he's not looking that way if they're not getting the type of pressure they got. You let Patrick Mahomes sit back there, have all day, he's going to pick you apart, But if you put that
Facts.
kind of pressure on him, he's seeing ghosts. Like, that's just, he was rattled, that's what happens when you just get that type of pressure.
Exactly, man. It's as simple as that. You look at the scoring breakdown. Jalen Hurts, 1 yard rush, 7-0. I mean, we go down the field, get a quick touchdown. Um, and that's after both teams go not three and out, but they have their first drive. They don't get points, And we come back on our second drive and get points. And then third drive, we get a field goal, 10-0. Fourth drive, before we even get there, the DeJean pick six, 17-0. At that point, that 10-0 lead, it felt as though we still didn't have direction in the game because after all had transpired, it felt like we should have been up by more, in my opinion.
Mhm. Oh,
And
great.
you never want that close of you never want the score to be that close against somebody like Mahomes and those guys. But once we went up 17-0, you can start to feel the tension was palpable. And that was, mind you, that's in the second quarter.
Hmm.
You're It's 7-0 until 8 minutes and 38 seconds in the second quarter when you get that field goal. So think of all that time that we held on to the ball and only got 7 points and against an offense that can be explosive when they get clicking. So, and then you eventually go up 24-0 with that crossing route to AJ Brown. Love the play call. A very, not an easy throw, but just taking simple concepts and just executing, not trying to make things overly complicated, just doing the little things correctly and just seeing if they can keep up with you. And the
Hmm.
further they fall back behind, the more chances they have to take and the more susceptible they are to making critical game-changing mistakes. And I really want to go and look at the offense right now because that takes us back to time of possession. And one of the things that you can do to keep an all-time great from killing you is keep him on the sideline. So we won time of possession 36 minutes and 58 seconds for us and only 23 minutes and 2 seconds for the Chiefs. It tells you a big reason why they were going to have trouble beating us. And we do that to everybody, though. It's not just them. And
Hmm.
looking at the trenches where we started at, if you're able to manhandle them in the trenches and just, even if it's 2, 3 yards to Saquon, they did everything within their power to sell out and stop the run and keep Saquon from beating them. But they did that at the cost of leaving one-on-ones on the outside for Jalen Hurts and his wide receivers, AJ and Smitty. And we talked about this is another point that we talked about in our prediction video. If you have man coverage on the outside, how are they going to hold up against these receivers that can actually absolutely torch man coverage? How do you do that? I just didn't see it. AJ Brown, he's one of the best receivers against man coverage in the league. Smitty,
Hmm.
while he hasn't had as many opportunities because AJ Brown gets a lot of volume at times, or they're constantly running the ball, he he was a Heisman Trophy winner for a reason. He won a national championship for a reason, and now he has his first Super Bowl for a reason. And he's only what the fifth person player to do that.
Yeah.
I got to check the stats again on that one, but I think
Something,
he's
something like that. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, like people forget that just because we don't do something as often doesn't mean that we can't do that.
Hmm. Yeah.
Like these minor details that a lot of these analysts they don't want to. Obviously, they're covering all these teams. They have national coverage, so they don't get a chance to see the little details that can provide clarity to some of the questions as to why teams are doing great or doing bad individually. But they just didn't give any respect to this passing game. They were like because they don't pass because they must not be good at it. That was the logical conclusion that most people would come to when that's just
Hmm.
not even close to being true.
No, not at all.
You know what I mean? So like, I mean, Smitty, he went off. He had that one touchdown, which was like the nail in the coffin for them, in my opinion. Even though we had, a whole nother quarter to play after that point, it just showed that okay, you guys want to sell out for the run, da da da, boom, run play action, and then take a shot to Smitty down the field. Easy. Like you can't throw the ball much better than Jalen did, and I don't know how much better he has to throw the ball before he can get the same respect that people give to Joe Burrows and
Yeah.
Allen and Lamar Jackson and Pat Mahomes and some of these other quarterbacks. Is he not dropping the ball in the breadbasket? Is he not leading his receivers correctly? Is he not, you know, responding well under the blitz, which he did very, very well last night,
Hmm. That was a
including,
dot, man.
yeah, yeah. And then even the AJ Brown threw a dot on a play that got called back. We're not even going to talk about the rest because we thought it was going to start early after that
Right.
play.
Yeah.
That was such
Listen,
yeah, that was such a bad call. But even that play, come on, bro. Trent McDuffie got cooked, dog.
yeah, it should have never that irritated the living crap out of me, bro. Like I was so mad at that. Like me and Bill were just screaming at the TV, like, come on, like they were both scrapping. Like, you let them
Yeah.
play, and then you're gonna call some stupid call like that. Like,
Nah, you can't do that, man. But it didn't matter, man, because we still found a way to push the ball downfield and do what we wanted to when we wanted to do it. So can't save them, refs. Can't save
nope,
them this time.
can't save it all. And they can stop Barkley all they want because, like we said, man coverage against our receivers, and that's fine.
No, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. So yeah, I
Nope,
mean, you look at Devonta Smith who went off, and like I said, just the fifth player in history to win the Heisman, the national championship, and the Super Bowl. Man, that's special elite company right there.
for sure.
And then you go ahead and look at Saquon. He didn't have a big day because they sold out to try to stop this dude. Like we're a big reason why we got to the Super Bowl is because of Saquon. So, look, they wanted to sell out and do that and stop him. Good on y'all. We found ways to get him involved a little more in the passing game, so he had some passes out the backfield, so that was cool. Including that one that took us down near the goal line for another score. Um, so just just ex just an excellent job uh game planning, and we'll get to the coaching in a second. But before I do that, I want to get to Jalen Hurts, man. Jalen Hurts and what he was able to do in this game, despite all the backlash, all the criticism, all the doubts. People saying, "Oh, if they stop Saquon Barkley, Jalen Hurts is going to have to play like uh Joe Montana. He wanted to put up 5 touchdowns to outduel Mahomes," and that particularly annoyed me
Yeah.
because one, he doesn't have to do that with the team that we have. Two, even if he does have to do that, he's shown you he can make the passes. How many times does he have to show you guys that he can make a pass to AJ Brown down the left sideline on 4th and 5, or to AJ Brown down the right sideline against Trent McDuffie in the Super Bowl, even though it got called back, or over the
Hmm.
top to Smitty and completely burning either Watkins or McDuffie, whoever was trying to cover him on that play? It doesn't matter.
Hmm.
All he
Agreed.
does is win, which is why he's the seventh NFL quarterback to appear in multiple Super Bowls and win a championship in his first 5 seasons. Special company he has. The other quarterbacks who did that, let's go down the list, man. TB12, Troy Aikman, Pat Mahomes, Ben Roethlisberger, Kurt Warner, and Russell Wilson. That is some rarefied air right there. So we talked a lot about Nick Sirianni over the years and the good and the bad. What do you think about him as a coach? Some of the things that we were hypercritical on him about, as well as particularly me. And I'm among a chorus of people that were calling for him to be fired. But I had very different reasoning to many people. My reasoning was he's very, very sharp. He's very, very bright. From the time that he came over from the Colts to take this job, I was more frustrated that there were obvious changes that needed to be made that I was pretty sure that he and the rest of the coaching staff were seeing. If I'm seeing it, I know they're seeing it. So why aren't you doing it? What do you
Yeah.
think? What was your take on Sirianni and where he started last year with a lot of the criticism to where he's ended up now?
All right. Well, for one, he needed to, run the ball more. That was part of it because, why aren't you running DeAndre Swift when he was averaging, what was it? I think it was 4.6 yards per clip.
He was at
And
yeah. He had 4.6. Yep.
yeah, he was averaging that. And then part of it is, when you come to this year too, it's the route concepts. You're like no motion, no type of creativity, none of that stuff, right? So he had so much stubbornness not to do any of that. Just had with these long, drawn plays, takes forever to unload. And even at times, he wasn't running the ball in spots of games. Obviously, he ran the ball more this year with Barkley, but there was spots where you felt like he should have ran more, right? So, compared to then and now, right?
Yeah.
Now he fixed all those things, and now he's finally getting it. So I feel like he's improved, took those things he was bad at, and now he is a much better, figuring the stuff out and getting it done. I feel like it's really been a huge improvement and, just making the minor details better and just not making it overly complicated, if that all makes sense.
Made perfect sense, man. And to
Mhm.
to go into more detail about what you were talking about, the stark contrast from last year to this year, it just speaks to me. And I have short videos as well as longer length videos talking about this, complaining about these things, um, calling for him to be fired because he wasn't taking care of the simple things. If you look at last year, DeAndre Swift had 229 carries for 1,049 yards, 5 touchdowns on the ground, obviously because he lost some to the tush push, and then 4.6 yards per carry. And
Mhm.
if you look at Jalen Hurts, Kenneth Gainwell, and Boston Scott would be last year's version of Will Shipley, they all got the same amount of carries, give or take like 10 carries, plus or minus 10.
Yeah.
But tell me how Saquon Barkley had 345 carries compared to 229 carries for DeAndre Swift. Now, unless there were some soft tissue injuries or wear and tear behind the scenes, or the coaches noticed that he was slowing down even though he didn't perceive that he was injured, outside of those things, what is the reason not to give DeAndre Swift the ball? Like, I understand he had the label of being nicked up all the time in Detroit, but if he's not showing it when he's with the Eagles, going into a pivotal playoff game with the Buccaneers, why would you only give him a limited amount of carries?
Yeah. Absolutely agree.
So to me, we you have to give Sirianni his props for making the change. I said we were asking for him to run the ball, and not only did he do that, but he really leaned on that line to the point that we had more rushing yards than passing yards as a Super Bowl winner. That hasn't happened since the 1975 Steelers.
Hmm.
And what did they do? They kept it simple. The same criticisms that Jalen Hurts is getting for not being asked to air the ball out a lot are the same criticisms that Terry Bradshaw got during the Steel Curtain days, where they're like, he's just a guy, he can't do it. But when asked to do so, he's hitting Lynn Swan down the field. He's able to throw the ball to Stallworth. He's able to hit Franco Harris
Yeah.
out of the flat when need be. That's
Hmm.
that's why he's a Hall of Famer, not just because he was on some Hall of Fame level teams.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's unfair to criticize Sirianni when he was not doing the things he was supposed to be doing just because he won a Super Bowl. Yes, you give him credit. Give that man his flowers. Don't act as if he wasn't doing a lot of great things to get us to this point. But also, let's not have convenient amnesia about many of the almost fatal flaws that he had. Hell, I'm not going to blame this one on him per se, but there were points during that Rams game that if Jalen Carter did not save us, we would be thinking about some of the plays like Jason Avant and I think Brian Baldinger pointed out this play near our own goal line where we got the safety. You're running route concepts that are taking they're not developing until about 15 or 20 yards down the field, even though you're playing in snow-like conditions with a quarterback who just had an injured knee prior to that.
Mm,
You're going to have these long developing plays and really put the pressure on your great line to have to hold up for 50 million seconds. I'm
mm,
exaggerating, but
yeah.
trying to block for way longer than even the best offensive lineman can block for, and not
Mm,
giving your quarterback or your receivers really a shot to pick up any type of yardage, let alone a first down. So,
mm.
um, just seeing the progression, that's what I wanted to see. And maybe it took him going to having the Britney Spears-esque uh, crisis moment and shaving the head and doing all that stuff. But let that man grow, be who he is, be the fiery individual that he is, and grow.
Yeah.
Just like I called for his head, what I also said during a lot of my rants was, yo, if he makes the simple changes and they're not hard, I have no problem being on board with Sirianni because I think he's a smart dude. Now, if I thought he was an idiot, no, like just get him out of here. And
Yeah.
I'm a Raiders fan. I didn't seen some bad coaches. So
Yeah.
when I see it's time to go, it's time to go.
Yeah, for sure.
I didn't want to see Antonio Pierce go because he did a pretty solid job considering the circumstances this year. It was an untenable situation.
Exactly.
I didn't seen bad coaches like Lane Kiffin. Like Lane Kiffin, you could see like the things he was doing, they worked in college, they're not working at the pro level.
No.
So why would I want to see that guy stay around? There's no amount of X's and O's that's going to help fix things for him because he's limited in certain capacities. I don't really think Sirianni is limited in terms of calling plays. I just think that we had the same criticisms about Andy Reid in his time in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And I made a video, in our video, we were talking about the Tampa Bay playoff game from last year. I referenced back to the Tampa Bay playoff game from 2002, ironically, where we got an early lead, 7-0, with a Deuce Staley touchdown, like a 50-yard touchdown run,
Right.
right through the heart of that Tampa Bay defense. And we just got away from running the ball for who knows what reason. Maybe he just felt like, I don't know. I'm just making up a narrative. I'm not trying to pin this on Andy Reid. Well, let's air the ball out. Maybe we can get some more points that way. Maybe we should win that way instead of just shut your brain off and just hand the ball off to Deuce Staley again, man. They can't stop you. That don't overthink it. And
Yeah. 100%.
that was really my whole point with Sirianni. You're a sharp dude. You have the weapons. You you have good concepts, but it's the equivalent of a very, very skilled boxer who fights with their hands down.
Yeah.
That's the best analogy I can think of. Like if you kept your hands up, they wouldn't even be able to get a lucky shot on you to possibly
Yeah.
derail your potential Hall of Fame career. But since you want to fight with your hands down, eventually, instead of going from 22-0 to 23-0, you might suffer your first loss in a critical moment because you're doing little things wrong that are so unnecessary to do.
Yeah. Agreed.
That's been my gripe.
Yeah.
And my gripe with some of the fans, conversely, I'm going to defend Nick here, is they don't like the way that he talks in press conferences. They think that his delivery is not as smooth as they would like. It doesn't inspire the confidence they wanted. They remember the first press conference with the plants and planting roots and I can't remember what he said, but trying to clown him. I'm like, if he knows football, I don't care if he's not delivering the words in the way that you want to. Like, can the man win? And
Yeah.
he's proven that he can win, and despite being stubborn at times, will make the adjustments in ways that Chip Kelly and Andy Reid would not when they were here. Um, and then, just seeing like his progression in terms of how he's willing to be true to himself, man. Like he's on the sideline, he'll say something and he will stand by it. And he had some fans chirping at him on the sideline in one of these games, and he chirped back. Big Dom had to try to calm him down, or Brandon Graham, or whoever it was on the sideline. Philadelphia fans, they like criticizing. I'm one of them, but they don't like taking the heat back.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're going to criticize and he's expressing his displeasure at your criticism, like how is he somehow not representing the organization well? I'm not
Mm-hmm.
saying it's not like he's jumping into the crowd like it's Royal Rumble or WWE. No, he's sitting there just giving you know, giving y'all
Yeah,
crap back, man. Like,
exactly.
so, as we hold the coaches accountable when we think things should change, we gotta hold the fans accountable, man. If you
Mm-hmm.
thought that he wasn't a good coach or he didn't know he didn't get into the NFL by accident. He didn't
Yeah,
have success with the Colts. I'm trying to think of the other team he was with. Ah, man, I just saw a picture of him as an assistant. I can't remember what team it was. He's he has the pedigree.
yeah,
He didn't just wake up and decide to start coaching yesterday.
yeah, exactly.
However, as an experienced coach, one of the things that we all have to watch out for in our respective professions as we get advanced is not getting too attached to one idea and being unwilling to make a change when it's painfully obvious that you need to.
Yeah,
And the answer is right there in front of you. It's not a skill or intellect issue. It's a stubbornness issue.
yeah,
So that's changeable. That's fixable.
yeah, for
Stubbornness is
sure.
fixable. Um, so kudos to Sirianni for taking a look in the mirror, doing whatever he needed to after that Jaguars game, which was closing down to the wire and more close, way more close than it needed to be, and making those adjustments and coming out, and we just went on a tear. Outside of that Commanders game, which we didn't even have Jalen Hurts for the entire game, we didn't lose a game.
Yeah.
I mean, we were what six, we had a run of 16-1, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I have to look at the numbers on that, but like we had a run where who were we losing to?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so we're not. Yes, the team is dominant. The team is great, but you still needed a guy to keep all those guys together, especially during those turbulent times, and the Philly media being what it is, because it's easy to fall apart. We fell apart in 2023, and they really used that experience to keep it together this year. And I liked how the players rallied around him at a point where the media was getting on him for things that don't matter, in my opinion. If you wanted to get on him, like I said, for not running the ball, oh, I hop on the bandwagon with that one. I did that with Andy. I got no problem with that. But
Yeah,
if
for
you want to
sure.
hop on the bandwagon and saying you don't like his personality or that he's not a good leader or the guy's not following him, AJ Brown's going, off road and da da da, like nah, man, he's one of the main reasons why those guys stuck together.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's my take on Sirianni, and man, what an accomplishment this early into his coaching career.
Yeah, man. Definitely.
Yeah. So with that, let us know what you think about that. I'm still processing everything that happened last night. Did not expect that. We thought we'd be celebrating a parade, but man, we were able to. It's not just what we did. It's not just who we beat. It's the circumstances and it's surrounding that and how we beat that team.
Yeah, 100%.
You left no question that we're the top dog on the block. Now, if you want to
Mm-hmm.
run it back and get BTA again, that's on you. But we're more than willing to do that, I think.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, I mean, I still think we're better in the Lions.
Facts. That's I like that though. I like that matchup though. The Lions are really, really good. I think the Eagles and the Lions are going to be clashing for a few years to come.
Oh, for sure.
They're a strong young team just like we are, up and coming, and I think that the Eagles and the Lions will be battling it out to represent the NFC as perennial contenders from the NFC and the Super Bowl. I do.
Yeah. And believe me, if it's not us next year, I truthfully think it's going to be a Lions because they're going to get better. We're going to get better.
Facts.
So it's going to be it's going to be real interesting. You got other teams like the Rams. You got Green Bay. I mean, okay. They're not as obviously dominant as the kind of team we are. You know, you got every phase of the game that you can think of when it comes to like where are holes on our team. Like it's like you can't think of them.
Right. I'll say the
So,
one team that sticks out to me if they're able to add to their defense in the offseason, the Commanders.
oh yeah, for sure.
They're just I'd say two pieces on defense away, particularly on that defensive line.
Yeah, maybe
To,
an
to
extra piece on the offense too.
yeah, yeah. I think they can build within 1 or 2 years. I think they'll be a perennial threat to both us and the Lions.
Yeah, agreed.
As early as next year, but not later than 2026.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because listen, man, Jaden Daniels, I was so close to drafting him for my fantasy league. I just waited around too long, but I knew I could just see it. I'm like, he's not Anthony Richardson. This guy can throw the ball. He is a quarterback that is a track athlete, not the other way around.
Yeah, he's gonna be a very top fantasy pick next year.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. But you know who's top dog right now? Jalen Hurts.
That's right.
Hey, oh yeah. By the way, before we get up out of here, check out that Jordan commercial, y'all. Something different. Something different.
Yeah, it is.
Man. Any closing thoughts before we leave out here, man?
Uh, um, yeah, I mean, only thing I could say is see you on Broad Street.
You heard the man. See y'all on Broad Street. Fly Eagles fly.